Banja. Banja in Creole is a wild yam. Now traditionally, Banja, we used to go and dig Banja up in the hills during the Christmas season in December. And my grandma and my dad used to see the older Banjas used to have cocoa or cocoa Banja in them, which were the pods that spread to grow extra Banja because it was not planted, it grew wildly in the forest. But did you know that there's a soup called Banga or Banga soup made from palm oil? Now that Banga soup made from palm oil is very popular in Nigeria, Cameroon and Ivory Coast. But also the word Banja means family in the Chewa or Nyanja language, a Bantu language spoken in Malawi and recognized in the minority in Zambia and Mozambique as well. Minority people in Zambia and Mozambique as well speak that Nyanja language. But in the Nyanja language, Banja means family. Very, very interesting. So on the small island of St. Lucia, Creole speaking, which has a history of enslaved people being brought in from the west coast of Africa, we have a wild yam that is called Banja. Banja or Banga is also a soup on the west coast of Africa, and Banja is also the word for family in the Nyanja language. So I'll just do a brief breakdown of a few things. I have a video on palm oil. So that Banga soup is actually made from the palm nut. It is a palm nut soup. Palm nut soup or Banga is a soup made from palm fruit and is common in the Ghanaian, Nigerian and Ivorian communities. The soup is made from a palm cream or palm nut base. The palm cream is combined with flavorful marinated meats, smoked dried fish and aromatics to create a rich, deeply flavored soup that can be eaten with starch, fufu, umotu, banku, fonio or rice. Palm oil is very significant in Nigerian, Ghanaian and other West African cuisine. I did a previous video, like I said, on the palm oil, the origin of the palm oil coming out of West Africa and finding itself in the cuisines or in the culture of the Caribbean as well, because that video started with me talking about coconut palm oil being made by my grandmother, which was a technology most probably brought into the Caribbean by the formerly enslaved people or the enslaved people out of the west coast of Africa, taking that palm nut technique from the west coast of Africa and creating an oil that they could use in the Caribbean as well. But let us break down a few of the regions that Banga or Banja soup is also quite popular and made. It says Banga soup is a palm fruit soup in the Cameroonian cuisine and West African cuisine. It is often served with cocoa. Remember I mentioned something about a cocoa, my grandma used to say, and that the wild Banja in the Caribbean have cocoa. Now the cocoa they were talking about is like a cocoa yam that it spreads on a vine and continuously grows wildly. So it's quite interesting that in the Cameroonian cuisine it is served with a cocoa, which is a yam. The soup is Cameroonian version of the West African Banga soup, a palm fruit soup eaten in areas including parts of Nigeria. In Cameroon, Banga is made using fresh palm nuts, and the outside the area canned nuts can be used as well, but it is usually made with that palm nut. In Nigeria, Banga is a type of palm fruit soup, it says, and it is found in the southern Niger Delta, Nigeria, particularly the Yoruba ethnic group. This cuisine is quite different from Ofe and Akwu, a variant of a variant found in the Igbo culture. So the Yoruba makes a soup out of that palm nut. The Igbo make a soup out of that palm nut in their culture, and also the Edo people from Benin also make a soup out of that palm nut. So the delicacy is all around, although made in different ways, but that Banga soup from the palm nut is quite a part of the overall ethnicity in Nigerian culture, from the different groups, each making a Banga soup or a soup from the palm nut. Basically, it says here, for example, some of the things used to flavor the soup are like belete, Indian fruit, rohe, or some bitter leaves used to flavor it. I also found what's interesting is that they eat that soup with cassava starch, palm oil, or rice in some of the areas. Also, it is said the soup is mostly prepared in one area with fresh catfish. As well, in some areas, they use finely chopped onions, ground crayfish, chili pepper, or Scotch bonnet peppers. Scotch bonnet pepper is a very popular pepper in the Caribbean, from Jamaica all the way down to Trinidad. That may be another cultural derivative, that spicy pepper from the west coast of Africa, taken into the Caribbean by the enslaved people when they were transported across the Atlantic from Africa to the New World or to the Caribbean. So here we have it. We spoke about a wild yam in St. Lucia in the Creole culture called Banja. We find out that there is a soup made from the palm oil, from the palm nut, called Banga or Banja. But also from the Nyanja family, Banja means, in their language, Banja means family. So yes, so it's very interesting. So what it makes me understand, that there may have been, just like, you know, somebody says to you, Google it, which means to search for something on the internet using a search engine. So Google becomes the synonymous name with a search engine. Maybe, just maybe, in St. Lucia, in the Creole language, the word Banja, which came to mean that yam or that wild yam, also meant to associate the idea of using that yam in a soup, in a one pot, because usually that wild Banja yam is used to make a one pot using coconut oil in there as well. But it may also have meant that because that people are sitting down and gathering around their holidays like family does, eating a Banja soup is kind of a family tradition. So Banja gives you the idea of family from the Nyanja language of the Ekwe people. So Banja means family in Chewa, also known as Nyanja, of the Bantu language spoken in Malawi and Zambia and Mozambique. And then we have Banga, which is that soup made out of the palm nut, which is very popular on the west coast of Africa, Nigeria, Cameroon, Ivory Coast. Very, very interesting. So from Banja, a wild yam, to Banga, a soup, to family, to the idea of culture derivatives stretching across the Atlantic from the west coast of Africa into the Caribbean by just taking one word that the slaves may have brought into St. Lucia, and it remains in the Creole language as Banja, a wild yam. If you like the content, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button and the bell so that you will be informed when a new video gets released. I say idi kui, kwa, which usually means a tale has been told. Thank you, and see you for the next one.